Okay. So today the topic of the lecture is about the respiratory system. The next system what we study, it is about the respiratory system. So what we will study in this respiratory system? So respiratory system. So what are the parts of the respiratory system? From where to where the respiratory system is extended? And then so we'll study about the central structure, that is the trachea, and we'll study the anatomy of the lungs. Very good. And then the coverings of the lung. So as we discussed in the previous lecture about in the cardiovascular system, so coverings of the heart. So same like, so here also we'll discuss about the coverings of the lungs and the clinical aspects of the anatomy, clinical aspects of the respiratory system. Okay, that nasal cavity and alveoli will discuss in later classes. So these are the objectives. So what just now I repeated. So describe the parts of the respiration. How many parts of respirations are there? Okay, and zones of the respiration, anatomy, coverings, and their clinical aspects of the lungs. Okay. Now, what are the parts? From where to where which is the external part and the internal part? The respiratory organs. So, what are the respiratory organs? The respiratory system, I mean, it extends from the nose to the alveoli. Okay, in between this, so from nose to alveoli of the lungs, what are the structures present in between? So that is the outermost part of the outermost organ of the respiration is the nose. So next is the pharynx, then trachea, then if you come down, this is the trachea, then we have the lungs. So in the lungs we have a bronchioles, further the smaller division of the trachea, and these bronchioles, the further last fine division, that is the alveoli. Okay, these are the parts of the respiratory system. Okay, next what I told, the zones of the respiratory system. This respiratory system, it is divided into basically two parts. So once you might have heard the thing, upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract, like that. So that is the conducting part and the respiratory parts. So it consists of two zones, that is the respiratory zone and the conducting zone. What is this conducting zone? The conducting zone, it provides the rigid conditions of the air to reach the site of the gas exchange. So it means, so it provides when the air comes, so when the air comes, it goes into the lungs where the gas exchange will takes place. So this is more about the physiology, only few parts. So this is what we required. So that part I am explaining here. So rest, the how the gas will be exchanged, all those things. So the physiology, it will be studied in your physiology lecture. So here, what are the parts here then? The parts of the conducting system, they are nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, and the trachea. So which are they? this is the nose here. The next behind the nose, this part is the nasal cavity, and here the lower part is the pharynx, and then this is the trachea. Okay, so these are the parts of the conducting system. Okay, next, the respiratory system. So next, the parts of the respiratory system is the respiratory zone. The next zone is the respiratory zone. So where the gas exchange will takes place. So here this is at the level of the alveoli. So what are the parts here? It consists of branching pattern of the trachea. See here, this is the trachea. How the trachea enters. So when the trachea enters into the lung, it divides further into the smaller branches. They are bronchioles, alveolar duct, and the last part is the alveoli. So these are small round structure. They are the alveoli. Okay. Next. Next is for the respiration, we need the help of some of the muscles in our body. Which are the muscles helps for our respiration? They are the diaphragm, the external intercostal, and scalenus muscle. So this external intercostal space, you know what is the intercostal space? What is intercostal space? Anyone? Yes. So this is the space between two ribs. So in this space, so there are muscles are there. So that is called the external intercostal muscle, scalenus, and such. That is the muscle. Okay. The name of that muscle is external intercostal muscle. And there are some other muscles. So these are the main respiratory muscles. Other than this also, there are some other muscles which also helps for respiration. So what are those muscles? So they are called axillary muscles of respiration. So that is the sternocleidomastoid. So this is the muscle which is present in the neck, pectoralis major and minor. So this is the muscle of the chest. Okay, serratus anterior. So this is the muscles of the back of the muscle, back of the body. So that is in the scapular region. Okay, latissimus dorsi, serratus posterior, superior. So all these are accessory muscles. So muscles of the respiration. Okay, next. So this structure, it shows that from nose, this is the nasal cavity here, pharynx, and then this is the trachea. See how the divisions takes place of the trachea. So that we'll study in the later. Now, the external part. So what is the external part of the respiration? The first part, the outer part of or outer organ of the respiration, that is the nose. So what it is? So it is the pyramidal projection of the face. The parts are, so these are the parts of the respiration. So one is this, the tip, root of the nose, that the dorsum, the upper part is the dorsal part, the ala of the nose. So here these are the ala of the nose, and then this is the nasal septum or nostril, pair of the nostril. So these are the parts of the nose, and in other words, it also say nose is the uppermost part of the respiratory tract, and it also contains, this nose contains the receptors. So what are these? Olfactory. What is the meaning of olfactory? What is the meaning of olfactory? Anyone knows? Yes, very good. So olfactory means smell. So these are the receptors of the olfactory receptors. They are the receptors for smell. So if there are no receptors, so you don't have, you will not recognize the smell. So there is no sense recognition of the smell. Okay. So these olfactory receptors, they are present in the nose. Nose contains two parts. See here in this diagram, the upper part. So this is the external nose, and the internal we have a nasal cavity. Okay, nose, the whole nose is not the bone. Only the upper part of the nose, it is made up of bone, and this lower part, see here, the yellowish, the bluish color structure, that is the cartilage. The tip of the nose is made up of cartilage. Okay. Next. So most of the functions you all know. So nose is the organ for respiration and then olfaction. So it contains olfactory receptors and then monitors the warm air, and it also helps the it filters the air which we breathe. Okay, protection of the lower respiratory passage and air conduction of the inspired air. So the air which we take inside, so it helps in the conduction of the air, and it also helps in the voice resonance. So voice resonance means the production of voice. Okay, and also helps in the production of speech also, and nasal reflex function. So that is, so whenever something goes or some irritation things goes in your nose, that time what happens? You will sneeze. So that is the one of the functions. All these are the functions of the nose. Next, the structure. There are some structures we are not studying here. So those things, that is the nasal cavity, nasal sinuses, all those things we'll study in the next semester. So when we is a head and neck. Okay, there we'll study in detail of the nasal cavity, what are the parts of the nasal cavity, all those things will be studied in next semester, that is head and neck. Now the another structure which is present in the respiratory system, that is the trachea. The trachea, it is also called the windpipe. Okay, from this trachea, the lower respiratory tract starts. It is the where you will find the trachea, there, that part, it is called the lower respiratory tract. Above the trachea, the parts of the respiratory organs, they are called upper respiratory tract. So what is this trachea? The trachea is non-collapsible. So non-collapsible means, so in any condition, so it remains the same. So it remains open only. So if it closes, so when there is no work, so if there is no, if you don't have if you just sitting in sitting, if you don't do anything, it will not collapse. So it is non-collapsible structure, and it is mobile, cartilaginous, cartilaginous and membranous tube. Okay, length is 13 centimeters. So what is the function here? So here it carries the air. The whatever the air comes from the nose, it goes into the trachea and then goes into the lungs. Okay, it is made up of, the wall consists of incomplete cartilages. Okay, so how these cartilages? These cartilages are C-shaped cartilages. See here. So this is the C-shaped cartilage. What we are showing here. So this is a C-shaped cartilage. The posterior back here. The back part of the cartilage. It is not attached completely. Okay. It can. How many cartilages are there? Nearly there are 16 to 20 C-shaped hyaline cartilage. The trachea contain which cartilage? It is the hyaline cartilaginous rings. Okay. So where this trachea is present? So it is present in front esophagus. So where it is present? It is present in the anterior part of the neck. Remember here, anterior part of the neck in front of the esophagus. This is the location of the trachea. Next. So trachea, it has two parts. Okay. So one is cervical and another one is the thoracic. Cervical and thoracic. See here. The division what I am showing. Okay. Just I will show. I will draw here. This is the neck. This is the neck. Then okay, neck will finish here. So this part, this is called cervical. Okay. Below this, this two part. So this is the thoracic. Okay. So it has two parts, the cervical and the thoracic parts. Trachea extends. So from where it extends? It comes from the larynx. So what is the extension of trachea? Trachea is the extension from the larynx. Okay. So where it is? And it is a midline structure. Remember, trachea, it is a midline structure and extends from the larynx. From where to where the trachea is extended? It has the upper end and the lower end. The upper end of the trachea, it starts from where? It starts from the body of sixth cervical vertebra. The upper end of the trachea, it starts from the body of the sixth cervical vertebra. So where it ends? So here, trachea ends at the lower border. Okay, remember these words: lower border of fourth thoracic vertebra. Okay, thoracic vertebra is correct. So which part of the thoracic vertebra? That is most important thing. Cervical vertebra is correct, but which part of the cervical vertebra? That is important here. Here in the cervical, the upper part at the level of body of the sixth cervical vertebra, and the lower end at the lower border of the fourth thoracic vertebra. and then it divides. Yes. No, whenever you write the thoracic vertebra or cervical vertebra, you have to write C4, C for thoracic, and C for cervical, T for thoracic, and then it divides into two bronchus. So these are the two divisions here. Okay. See how the bronchus is. This is the right and this is the left side. So this right one, it is slightly straight. Okay. Can you make out in this diagram? Whereas the left one, it is slightly horizontal. This is the position of the right and left regions of the trachea. Next, what is the differences here? What is the difference of right and left bronchi? See here, the length, lumen, direction, and division. So these are very important things to know about the trachea. So because of there are some clinical importance also. The length of the right trachea is very short and the left one is long. The lumen means that is the size, it is wide, and this left one is narrow. Whereas the direction, so it is more vertical, straight, whereas it is slightly oblique. Division before entering into the lung does not divide before entering into the lung. So divides before entering into the lung. See here in the previous diagram, I will tell what it is. So this is, I will draw, here is the lung. Okay. So this trachea, it divides outside only before entering into the lung. Okay. Whereas in the left side, so what happens? The trachea enters inside and then it divides. That is the meaning. And one more thing I told. So this right side, it is very short and the size of the trachea bronchi is wide and it is vertical. So that's why any foreign body. So what do you mean by foreign body? So something, any material which goes, if you during eating and all, so when you eat very fast, so that one small material or some small food particle, it directly goes into the right lung rather than the left side. So that's why, so whenever you are taking any food or water, you should be very slow. That's why whenever our parents, they used to tell, so whenever you are eating and all those times, they will tell, drink slowly, eat slowly. Why? Because the right bronchus, it is almost straight. Sometimes by mistake, the food will go into the trachea instead of it going into the esophagus. So this you understood? The difference is clear here? Okay. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Because this oblique division, so that is why the food particles or any foreign body does not go into the left lung, left side. Okay. So these are the differences you should know. Next, what happens? The trachea. So how the division of the trachea takes place? So first it will be trachea, then it divides into the first division of the trachea is called principal bronchus, or it is called primary bronchus. So then it goes inside the lung. Inside the lung it is called lobar bronchus, and then it goes into further branching. It is called segmental branches, and then terminal branches, and still smaller division, respiratory bronchioles. So these are the divisions how the trachea is divided. So this you understood? Again, for this I will tell. So what are these 10 in number? So when you will study the, when we will go to the lungs slide, there I will tell what it is. So in the next, again in the next slide also we can describe here. So this is the division takes place. Okay, if you take the lung here, if this is the lung, so here we have lung is divided. Again, that's why I told you it will be little, if I tell here it is confusing, so I will explain in the lungs only. Okay, just remember. So this is the division of the trachea. Next we'll go to the pleura. What is this pleura? Pleura, it is the layer which covers the lungs. The covering of the lungs is called pleura. So how it is? As we described, the pericardium of the heart, same this is also a double layered sac. So here this layer is also two layers. The outer layer, it is the parietal pleura, and the inner one is the visceral pleura, which is, this is the visceral pleura which is attached to the lung. And then the space between these two layers, it is called pleural cavity. Okay, what is the space between, what is the space in the pericardium? That is called pericardial cavity. Here in the lungs it is called pleural cavity. So again it is a potential space between the visceral and parietal pleura. This pleura helps divides the thoracic cavity into central mediastinum. See here, mediastinum, where the mediastinum is present. The mediastinum, it is present in between the two lungs. That area is called mediastinum. Okay, and two lateral pleural compartments. So these are the two pleural compartments. So where the lungs are present. In the mediastinum, what structure we find here? In the mediastinum, what structure here? What is the structure present in the mediastinum? Very good. So the mediastinum, heart and its coverings and their structures. Next. So that is clear about the pleura. It is a double layer sac, parietal and visceral pleura. Okay. So next, the lungs. The next part of the, or next organ of the respiration is the lungs. So what are these lungs? These lungs are spongy, expandable pair of conical shaped respiratory organs. What they are? They are sponge-like, spongy, expandable, or in some books they will tell elastic. They have elasticity or expandable. So when you breathe inside, what happens? The lungs will expand. So what is the shape of these organs? They are conical shape respiratory organs. So where they are present? They are present in the thorax. Okay. So where they are present? So in the thorax, and they are separated by mediastinum. So it is separated by mediastinum, that is called, that surface of the lungs is called mediastinal surface. This mediastinum, as already told, it contains the heart and great vessels. It is surrounded by double layered serous membrane, it is called pleura. The color of the lungs, they are brown to gray in color. It becomes black because of the deposition of inhaled carbon. So in the during breathing and all, what we breathe, sometimes we also breathe carbon also. That is why there will be dark depositions of the lungs, and the weight is 700 grams. Right one is 700 grams, left one is 600 grams. Next, what are the parts of lungs? The lungs, the parts of the lungs are the apex, base, lobes, surfaces, and three borders. Okay. So these are the parts of the lungs. So what are those? So here, if we draw here, I will show you how these structures are. Okay. This is the apex of the lung. Okay. This is the base of the lungs here, and then we have lobes. Okay. These are the lobes of the lung, and then the surface. As we can know what you mean by surface. Okay. And then these are the borders here. Okay. And the left lung is slightly smaller than the right. It is due to presence of the heart, because what happens? The left lung, the heart. So here you have a heart. So what happens? This heart, during development, heart pushes the left lung. So that's why the left lung is smaller. So it's clear here. Next. Okay. So what are the parts of lungs? So first one is the apex. So where the apex is present? The apex is how it is? It is blunt and lies above the level of anterior end of the first rib. Okay. So if this is the first rib, here sometimes the lungs, it extends, yes, up above. This is the first rib, and this is the apex of the, it lies above the first rib, and it reaches nearly 2.5 centimeter above the medial 1/3 of the clavicle. Okay. Here it also reaches up to the level of the clavicle, which is present in your shoulder. Next, what is the base? The base is the lower part here, this one. So when you come down, yes, this one is the base of the lung. or it is also called sometimes the inferior surface. The inferior surface of the lung which rests on the diaphragm. This part is the diaphragm. This is diaphragm. This is the part which divides the thorax into abdomen. Okay. Next the costal surface. Now you see here. So what I told, this part, the apex, first I will tell about the, in this diagram I will explain about the apex and the base. See here, this is the apex of the lung, okay, and this is the base here. See here. So what is there, or it is also called the inferior surface. Inferior surface of the lung. So where it is rest, it is rest or it is sitting. So it is sitting on the diaphragm. Where the apex is? The apex is a blunt structure and lies above the level of anterior end of first rib. This is the first rib here. Here it comes the first rib. Anterior end of, see, okay. Now this is clear here. Okay. Next. What is costal surface? Costal surface, this surface. So that's why this diagram is clear now. Costal surface, it is wide, convex. So what are the structures present here? It is related to sternum, costal cartilages, ribs and intercostal muscles. All these structures here. So this is the, so what is this? This is sternum, and then this is costal cartilage, and then these are ribs and intercostal muscles. See here, this one, intercostal muscle. All these structures, they are present on the or relations of the costal surface. Next, the medial surface. What is medial surface? This surface. This is the medial surface here. Okay. This surface of the lungs. You can see here. This. The medial surface. The center of the medial aspect of each lung is the site of entrance or exit of the structures. So what it means? There are some structures, they goes inside the lung and some structure coming outside of the lung. So this part is called the hilum of the lung. This is clear? This is the medial aspect. What I am showing, what you are seeing, this area, this is the medial surface of the lung. So what structure present there? There you have a hilum of the lung. So what is hilum of the lung? It is an area where the structures enters and exit. This is clear? The hilum. Okay. 1 minute. This is the lung. Okay. This is trachea. So where the trachea is going? This is trachea. Okay. It is dividing here. Now this is the lung. This area. The blue colored area. This trachea is going inside the lung. Okay, this area is trachea is going inside the lung, and some of the blood vessels, they are coming outside the lung. That area is called the hilum. Okay, thank you. So still more clear, I will explain. Just imagine you are entering the class. So how you enter in the class? Class by one door. Okay. After finishing the class, you go out from the class in the same door. So that door you imagine is the hilum. The area where you are sitting, that is the lung. So this is clear here now. Okay. So that area is also called the root of the lungs. So what are the structures in the root of the lung? So what structures goes inside? What are the structures comes outside the lung? So what they are? They are called, they are the bronchus, right and left, bronchus, bronchial vessels, pulmonary artery, pulmonary veins, pulmonary nerve plexus, and bronchopulmonary segments. So all these structures, they are present in the root of the lung. Okay, shall we go to next slide? Did you understood this? Okay. Next, what I told, lungs also has border. Okay, see this diagram. This is the costal surface. So where it is related to costal cartilage, ribs, sternum, all the structures. And then it also showing the apex of the lung. Now we see the borders of the lungs. So what are the borders? So these are the borders. The anterior border and lower you have the, these are the anterior border and the inferior border. So that is the lower borders. And you also have the posterior borders. Where you will have posterior border? This one. This is the posterior border. And here this is the inferior border. This one. What I am showing here? This is the anterior border. This is clear here? Posterior border, the inferior border, and the anterior border. Okay, where they are present? The anterior border, it is thin and it is shorter than the posterior border, and mediastinal and costal surface. Next, so are both the lungs are same here? Can you, what difference you are seeing in between these two? Is there any difference between these? Just see the anterior border. Yes. So what is that? So in the left lung, see the left lung here. This is the anterior border of the right lung. So it is straight. Here the left lung, it is, there is a small curve here. Okay, there is a small curve. So this curve is called the cardiac notch. Why it is called cardiac notch? So in between these two structure, you have the heart here, because The presence of the heart. Okay. So this is clear here. Why the left lung is smaller? Because the heart compresses. The heart pushes the left lung. And this area is called the cardiac notch. So where the cardiac notch is present? The cardiac notch is present in the left lung. Okay. Next, the posterior border. The posterior border is smooth and rounded. And how it is formed? It is formed by costal and mediastinal surface. It is the meeting point of the costal and mediastinal surfaces. Whereas the inferior border, inferior border, it is separated from base of the lung. It is separated from base of the lung from costal and mediastinal surface. Okay. We'll go to next slide. Okay. Next. The other landmark structures are in the lungs are the difference. So one difference you already came to know that in the left lung you have a notch. So that is called the cardiac notch. So what are the other differences in the lungs? The left and right lung. The right lung, it has 3 lobes. This is 1, 2 and 3. Whereas the left lung has 2 lobes, 1 and 2. Okay. And then how it is divided? The right lung has 3 lobes by 2 fissures. This is the oblique fissure and this another one is the horizontal fissure. Okay. This one is oblique fissure and this is the horizontal fissure. Whereas the left, it has only one fissure, that is oblique fissure. This is clear here? Okay. Next. So what are the differences? Again, the differences are, there are some other differences you can make out. How many lobes? In the right side, 3 lobes, left side, 2 lobes. And how many fissures? In the right side, 2 fissures, the left side, 1 fissure. That is oblique fissure, it is present in the left side. In the right side, oblique and transverse or horizontal fissure. The shape, it is short and wide base. The right lung is short and it has a wide base. Whereas the left lung, it is long with narrow base. So due to compression of the cardiac, so the lung will become narrow. Okay. And the bronchi have 2 bronchi at the hilum and 1 bronchi at the left lung. So these are the differences of the lungs. The next one is the bronchopulmonary segments. So we are describing these things in previous slides also. What are these bronchopulmonary segments? Till now, what we know, the lungs are divided into lobes. Okay, lungs are divided into lobes. So this is one lobe, another lobe, and this is the third lobe. Okay, in the left side there are two lobes. Okay, so further these lungs, they are divided into the smaller divisions. They are called segments. This is clear here. So what are these? Did you understood what are bronchopulmonary segments? Bronchopulmonary segments, they are anatomical and okay. So how many lobes are there in the right lung? There are three lobes. Okay. So each lobe of the lungs, this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. Okay. These one lobe further divides into 1, 2, 3. 3 small lobes. This is clear here. This is one big lobe, and this one big lobe further have the 3 branches. These 3 branches, they are called segments. That's all. Same like the other lobes. Okay. Just remember, so these are the smaller branches of the lungs. In the right side, you have 10 bronchopulmonary segments. See here, how many segments are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here, in the lower lobe, further 3. Like that, here, in the right side 10 segments, and in the left side 9 segments. What are the importance of these segments? So if there is any infection, or if there is sometimes there may be cancer in the lungs, or there may be any lymph nodes or any enlargement in the lung, you can remove only this part. So if there is any infection in this segments, we can remove these segments, and the rest of the lungs will be safe. Okay. Next, the respiratory zone. In the respiratory zone, so what you will see, the smaller segments. So this is the trachea here. See here, this is the trachea entering into the lung, and then it divides. So these are the bronchioles, and now you see all these yellow structures. So these yellow structures, they are the segmental branches. So what they are called? They are the segmental branches of the bronchioles. The last part of this, it is called the alveoli. The alveoli, defined by the present respiratory zone, it contains the alveoli. So what they are? So they are the terminal bronchioles. So they are the last end of the bronchioles. So terminal bronchioles means they are the end part of the bronchioles. They have a small bag-like structures. They are called alveoli. How these alveoli are attached? These alveoli are attached with the alveolar ducts, and then to terminates the clusters of the alveolar sac composed of alveoli. Okay, the terminal see this, to follow this diagram. This is terminal bronchioles, and then the respiratory bronchioles, and then this further divides into alveolar ducts and then the alveoli. How many alveoli are present? So there are about 480 million alveolar ducts. Alveoli are located in our lungs. Okay. Just here you remember the terminal part of the respiratory zone is the alveoli, and it has the duct. The duct is attached to the alveoli. It is called alveolar ducts. So this is clear here. Next, the blood supply. The blood supply and the nerve supply, they are called the bronchial artery and the bronchial vein. The pulmonary circulation is by pulmonary artery and the pulmonary veins. The nerve supply of the lungs, they are called pulmonary plexus. Plexus means it is the group of nerves, so which contains the vagus and the cervical cardiac nerves. These two together called the pulmonary plexus. And next, so what are the clinical aspects of the respiratory system? So the common things are the cold, cough, all those things. And then further, the pathologically, these are the pneumonia, the pneumothorax means the fluid present in the lungs. Pleuritis. Pleuritis means the infections of the pleura. Lung abscess. So abscess means there is a pus in the lungs, or is there any foreign bodies present in the lungs. Okay. So this is clear here. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me. What is? So in this slide, nothing. So these are the names of the diseases. So these are some clinical aspects of the respiratory system. That's all. Okay. So if everything is clear, yeah. So I will show you the video of the respiratory system. So what time we'll meet?